And this week's Ramble Rouser topic is whatever this one is. Oh, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Okay, so we have another fun one this week. Um, kind of not going with our already established kind of unintentional, obviously, pattern of serious switching between serious and fun each week. So this one, I don't know what my hair is doing here. It's bothering me. So sorry if I'm messing with this. Um, but yeah, so or Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Um, Breaking Bad is a hit television series that, to put it in the most simple terms, is about a high school chemistry teacher uh, being diagnosed with lung cancer and then selling meth in order to pay for his treatment. Better Call Saul is a spin off that takes place actually as a prequel to Breaking Bad, centering around a specific character's, well, technically multiple characters' backstories, but very specifically focusing on one certain character, um, and kind of giving a lot more context into the events and certain characters and plot lines of the original Breaking Bad. When I first heard about Breaking Bad, I was not really that interested. It's like the basic plot of it just it didn't seem like it was going to be much my thing. I'll be honest, I'm much more into animated shows than I am live action shows as it is. Um, and so it's like it just out of the few animated shows that I do really enjoy, it just didn't seem like the kind of thing that would be for me. Like when you compare it to other animated shows at the time that I was known for enjoying stuff like Monk or Psych or whatnot. It didn't seem like it was going to be my thing, or like other stuff like just competition shows and whatnot, like America's Got Talent or cooking competitions. It's like obviously it doesn't connect with that. Um, but yeah, yeah. Either way, I decided to give it a chance and check it out on recommendation from a friend. And well, my thoughts were definitely different from the friends. His thoughts, well, going into it, and there are going to be spoilers in here. I'm going to say that right now. There's going to be spoilers. They're not going to be like huge, major spoilers, probably. I doubt I'm going to get into talking about any of like the big plot reveals or major like story beats or anything like that. Just there will be some spoilers. Just be warned. um, but it's like certain things would happen and all, and certain characters we would have notably different opinions on and views on. As I started watching it, I hated the main character, Walter White. I saw him as an irrefutable villain, a monster, the equivalent of Light Yagami from Death Note, who was very much the villain of Death Note. And I mean that wholeheartedly as an equivalent because in Death Note, Light Yagami was a villain for sure, an evil piece of shit for sure, but you could kind of understand where he was coming from. You understood his initial motivation. However, that motivation was kind of thrown to the side by the end and replaced. Um, in Death Note, Light Yagami's initial motivation was to rid the world of criminals, to rid the world of bad people, to make it safer and better for good people to live in. But by the end of the series, his motivation had changed to his motivation by the end was pretty much just being God. He wanted to be God, um, as he put it, the God of the new world. He didn't actually care by the end about killing specifically criminals anymore. He was killing innocent people just because they happened to be in his way or shit like that. Um, and by the end, it's like it, it's just undeniable how evil he was. And that's the thing. Like the worst crimes can be paved by the best intentions. You think that people out there who have done all these horrible crimes throughout history saw themselves as bad guys? No, they thought they were doing what was right. A lot of times for humanity, a lot of times for specific pieces of humanity, doesn't matter. They thought they were in the right. They thought they were helping. They thought they were good. It's it it's almost like it's okay, it's extremely rare. Let's put it that way. It's extremely rare for a person to actually acknowledge that what they're doing is evil because no one sees themselves that way naturally. And those who do are usually those who are trying to change themselves or already have. A person who would openly acknowledge that the actions they're taking are evil would also be the person who just doesn't care and are doing them anyways because they don't care, because it doesn't matter to them, because the morality of good versus evil just isn't a factor to them. Basically, sociopaths. But either way, getting back on topic, that's how I saw Walter White. He he was very much like Light Yagami from Death Note. He had good intentions at the beginning. He wanted to be able to pay for his treatment as well as provide money for his family when he was gone so that they would be taken care of. Like, well and fine intentions. Granted, those intentions are never a good reason to start dealing drugs or making drugs, making slash dealing. Um, yeah, that's never a good reason for shit like that. And I'm by the way, I'm talking specifically hard drugs here. I'm not talking like weed. I'm talking specifically hard drugs like meth that is shown in the series. But yeah, I saw myself finding a lot of issue. There's one point in the series, for example, that me and my friend actually had a bit of a debate on. And again, like I said, there is going to be spoilers and stuff. So that's your warning. There are spoilers. Um, there's one point in the series where Walter has to decide whether to save a girl's life or let her die. She's choking on her vomit after uh, doing drugs. And all he has to do to save her life is just to basically turn her over. Turn her over. She's asleep. She's choking on her vomit. If he turns her over, he saves her life. He chooses not to. He chooses to let her die because he feels she's a bad influence on his partner in crime, Jesse Pinkman. So he lets her die. And my view of this is if you see someone who is dying and you refuse, blatantly refuse, like openly refuse to help them, then you are a murderer. Or at the very, very least, an accessory to murder. And that it's no different than if you had killed them yourself. Because you are actively supporting their death. You are actively taking part in them dying. And my friend, who I'll mention by the way, I'm actually not in contact with anymore. Um, but he argued that Walter was in the right for doing that. Like not just in terms of the show, but that was he was actually in the right for doing that. And like I said, I'm not in contact with this friend anymore, and not because of that incident, because of a lot of things, but still. Um, but yeah, it's like in my eyes, it's like it's not even a question that he was very much in the wrong. Not only in the wrong, but just incredibly wrong. Like it's not even it's straight up a black and white issue. It's not there's no gray area there. Um, but yeah, yeah. uh, the big thing I will say about Breaking Bad, though, is that even though I didn't like Walter at the beginning, and hell, I technically didn't by the end, I still hated him as a character. Well, okay, I hated him, but I loved his character because he was well written. Obviously, Bryan Cranston is a phenomenal actor, and he acted extremely well. So none of that was the issue. It's just I hated the character. I hated um, his personality, his greed and selfishness, his just excessive evil. And you're kind of it kind of feels like yeah, you're supposed to. At least I hope you're supposed to hate him. Um but I think you're also supposed to feel sorry for him because it's like he's a real person who was driven to this evil. He had the propensity for it his entire life. It was like already inside him, but he was driven to it coming out by, well, a lot of things like the shitty American healthcare system, for one, but a lot of things drove him into that position. And he went, he just became evil. And it's not just him. A lot of the characters in the show are portrayed as being morally gray or even bad, even if they're characters you would like. Like the character of Saul Goodman, who is the and my camera died. Shit. Hold on. Okay. Like the character of Saul Goodman, who's the focus of Better Call Saul, the spinoff series, which I'll get to as well. Um, Saul Goodman is a bad person. He is a criminal. He does bad things, which is very much expanded upon in the prequel series, Better Call Saul. But even in Breaking Bad, it's very obvious. Yet, because of his charisma, his charm, his just insatiable personality, you can't help but like him. You can't help but kind of enjoy watching him. That doesn't mean you agree with his methods or his moral stances or anything, or lack thereof. It just means that you like him as a character. It just means that he's written well, that he's acted well, that he's directed well. Um, and again, that's how a lot of the characters are in these shows, both of them. There are also characters who operate on a very moral gray area. Characters who do break laws or do bad things, but not so much out of negative intent or not so much to such a horrible degree where it compromises the good that they do. Such characters in the original Breaking Bad would include the likes of Skylar White, Walter's wife, who does do some pretty bad things throughout the course of the series, but but for the most part she is still on the up and up and is a lot more reasonable and a lot more good and kind-hearted and honestly just trying to deal with the shit that her husband is doing um than Walter could ever hope to be. Like she's so much better of a person. And again, she's not perfect. She is morally gray. Walter White is not. Hank Schrader, though, Walt's brother-in-law, he's another example of a character who is in that moral gray area. Um, he definitely is a good guy. He's definitely doing things for the right reasons, but he does do some bad things on occasion. I think the only main character who you could actually say is outright 100% good would be Walter Jr., Walt's son. He is the only character who you could honestly say is genuinely 100% good. And that doesn't mean he's a perfect, because no one's perfect, but that is, he is genuinely the only really notable, like, undeniably good character in the show. Um, and then Better Call Saul. So Better Call Saul, like I said, is a prequel series. It takes place years and years before, but there are some small clips shown throughout the course of the series that take place during, or not, well, after the events of Breaking Bad. Um, Shortly after, sometime after, actually, I'm not exactly sure exactly how long after, but after the events of Breaking Bad. Um, but most of every episode takes place. Most of the series, like 99% of it, takes place in the past. And it focuses on a certain few characters from Breaking Bad. Obviously, Saul Goodman being the main one, who is a skeezy lawyer. In Breaking Bad, he is a criminal lawyer, specifically who works with the likes of Walter and Jesse. But they expand on that a lot more in Better Call Saul. But it also focuses on other characters, such as Hector Salamanca, um, Gus Fring, and in my eyes, most notably, Mike Ehrmantraut, who is by far and large my favorite character from both shows. Um, but yeah, it's like the series tends to take a little more of a different tone than Breaking Bad. It definitely feels very different in how it's presented. And not just because of the characters and everything. The situations are different. The comedy is a bit different. The drama is different. All of that jazz. But you can also still tell it is a Vince Gilligan show. Um, I think the biggest thing to note with Better Call Saul in comparison is that obviously Breaking Bad tended to focus more on the drug world, obviously, because that's kind of the major focus of it, of Walter White's entire empire that he builds. Um, and just as obviously in Better Call Saul, since it's focusing on the lawyer Saul Goodman, it focuses much more on the law side of things. You get to see a lot more into courtroom stuff, into law office and big uh, law company business. You get to see a lot more into that kind of stuff and even learn a little bit about, well, in law in general. Um, so it's really interesting. But you still get all of the drug cartel stuff in Better Call Saul as well. It's definitely still there, but it's kind of focused on more as the B plot for the most part. There's some exceptions. Um, the A plot is mostly focused on Saul himself and his struggles, his journeys into becoming a top notch lawyer, while the B plots focus on the likes of his girlfriend, it focuses on Mike, it focuses on Gus, characters like that. The characters who they're building up either new for this spinoff or to expand upon from their roles in Breaking Bad. Um, and it's really fun to see. It's really fun to see the new characters be introduced and how they're handled, as well as the characters we've already come to love and enjoy. Again, Gus and Mike being big examples of that. Um, it's fun seeing them handled in a newer, fresher way. And my camera died again. Hold on. But yeah, so it's really fun to watch. It definitely yields a different feeling than Breaking Bad. If I would have to say which series I liked better, it would still probably be Breaking Bad overall. But Better Call Saul by no means is bad. It's really good. Um, it's just it does elicit a different kind of feeling as a series. Um, but yeah, either way, um, I think that these shows are pretty fun, pretty interesting, have phenomenal acting and direction. And if you haven't seen them, I would definitely suggest checking them out. Both of them are available on Netflix, though Better Call Saul, only the first four seasons, I think, are on Netflix. Um, yeah, I think three or four seasons, something like that. Um, but I would definitely suggest checking them out and watch Breaking Bad first. Better Call Saul is meant to be watched after Breaking Bad because there are a couple scenes here spread throughout the series here and there that do require knowledge of Breaking Bad before you watch them. Um, Plus, again, it's kind of even though it's a prequel, it's expanding upon Breaking Bad. So it definitely would help if you've seen Breaking Bad first. Um, but yeah, I would definitely suggest checking them out. And if you do, I hope you enjoy. And if you have seen them already, tell me in the comments below what you thought. But, anyways, that will be it for this week's Ramble Rouser. I know I got to it a little earlier than I have been in the past couple weeks, but hey, there's no real schedule for it. I can get to it any day of the week I want. um, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.